you said God didn't need to rest, but he rested. So if God rested, how much more should we weak and non-infinite creatures rest? Like, it's like, why do we think we can just keep going and like keep grinding?
Hi, everyone. From Rolling Hills Covenant Church, this is Ask Anyway, the podcast where we get to answer the questions you've always wanted to ask, but maybe have been too afraid to. Got a question, but you're not sure if you can ask it in church? This is the place for you. Don't be afraid. Go ahead and ask anyway. My name is Nick, and I'm the host for our discussion today, and I'm joined by Connor Miller, our high school pastor.
Hey, guys.
And Alex, I was going to say your last name, but...
I'm glad you did it.
Enfiegin.
Enfiegin?
That was perfect.
Enfiegin.
Yeah, every single letter.
Nick,
Enfiegin.
get it right.
I'm so sorry.
Nick's got the hard last name too. So.
No. That's why we just don't say it out loud.
Deathlison. No.
Close. Yeah.
Wasn't it though?
Deathlison, yeah. It's a bit of a tongue twister. So anyway, Alex, thanks for joining us.
Hello, everyone.
As well. So today, the question that we're going to be tackling comes in. Someone wrote it in to us, as you can, if you email us at ask@rhcc.net, or you can submit it on our website. And the question is the Sabbath a command we must follow in our world today? So Alex, do you want to start us off? Kind of, why are we talking to you about the Sabbath today? How has it kind of played a role in your life, or how have you thought about it?
Yeah. Well, the word Sabbath means to cease, like to stop. Yes, it's a full stop. And I actually did a couple of months at least worth of study on the Sabbath personally for myself a couple years ago, because I tend to like run really hard and never really stop. It's still a problem I struggle with. And I feel like I was probably getting unhealthy, maybe burning out or getting close to burnout. And I was like, I should understand this Sabbath thing. So I read a lot of books about it and listened to a lot of podcasts, and really like understood that it's this transformative gift that God gives to his children. He's like, I have something for you. You can lay it all down and take a day off, and I will keep the world together for you,
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, that's something I should start doing. So my wife and I started taking it really seriously, and just taking, it used to be Fridays, and we would call it Free Friday,
Oh, nice.
Free from chores,
Love the
free
alliteration.
from responsibilities, free from everything. And we just hung around, lounged around, did what we wanted.
That's good. So it's not just, I'm not clocking in at work 9 to 5. It's like everything work related.
Yeah, I'm not going to take out the trash.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sweep up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pick up my socks. Well, but you do it the day before. And the
you gotta prepare for it.
The Jews did this too. They would actually go and like get everything ready. That's why before Jesus' burial, when they took him down from the cross, because it was going to be Sabbath, they needed to get him ready fast, and they kind of like quickly wrapped him up, and then that's why the ladies came back on the day after Sabbath.
Gotcha.
So you do kind of need to do some prep work so that you can actually enjoy Sabbath and just like fully not veg out, because it's meant to be like something that you're taking in like things that build you up, or music that encourages you, or you're taking a walk in some beautiful place. It's for like enjoying God's good gift of creation.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah. Do you want to kind of lead us into maybe what Scripture has to say?
Yeah, I think that's good. That's a great point. And I think one of the bit of fuzziness for Christians is there's so many reasons why God could have given us this rest. Like I've heard from so many people in talking to them about like, what do you think the Sabbath is? Just different answers. Like I think one of the main ones I get is like, it's a day free of distraction, so you can just focus on God. Or it's a day of worship, or it's a day of rest, or it's a day of refreshment so that you can go work again for 6 more days. And it's just kind of all over on like, what's the purpose of it? And so I think it's good and interesting and helpful to look at Scripture and see what it says like the purpose is. And it's not like entirely clear and definitive. So like there's some room for trying to interpret what God means by don't work. But yeah, I think the best place to start is
before you read Scripture. Is Sabbath a command?
Yeah, that's good.
I thought we're not bound to the law. Yeah. So do we still need to keep Sabbath?
It's a big part of it too.
And then which day is Sabbath? That's a big argument.
Yeah.
So what does it look like to observe it? Does it have to be on a set day? Is it the 7th day?
And is it the law of God, or is it pre-law?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think like reading at least a few of these passages is going to flesh out those questions. And then we'll certainly be able to apply like, for the Christian, is this something that we must do? Is this something that we ought to do? How then do we practice? On what day? Why do we worship on Sundays and not Saturday? Like that sort of thing. So maybe let's start in Genesis 2, verses 1 through 3. And we'll just like read a couple of these and make observations. So Genesis 2, verses 1 through 3. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And on the seventh day, God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. So we get to the seventh day, and we are like, our understanding of who God is and his infinity and his omnipotence teaches us that like God wasn't tired. Like God created for 6 days, but it's not that he was out of breath and he needed to rest, but there's something specific and unique going on here when he looks at the seventh day and he blesses it. And I think what stands out to me is like we've seen God bless people, we've seen God bless his creation, but to like actually bless the time. Like he looks at that 24 hours, that section of time, and blesses it and makes it holy. Like it's odd how objective this is.
Yeah, and holy means set apart or different.
Yeah, sanctified,
so
kadosh.
It's different, right? So that day is supposed to be different than every other day. It's this special time that God gives us. Yeah. And even like what you're reading, it's baked into the created order.
Yeah.
So like Sabbath is like, it's pre-law. So it's not like a Mosaic law. Yes, it's in the law. In fact, it's one of the most important ones. It says above all else.
Keep this above all else. Yeah. In Exodus 31.
Yeah. Keep the Sabbath. And so it's a very important Mosaic law, but it's pre-law, and it's like God baked it into the order of the universe. And then the other thing that was interesting is you said God didn't need to rest, but he rested. So if God rested, how much more should we weak and non-infinite creatures rest? Like it's like, why do we think we can just keep going and like keep grinding?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I know that's not exactly where you wanted to go, but
No, that's perfect. And it's objective. It's like whether you celebrate the Sabbath or not, the Sabbath happens every week. Like this period of time that God looked at and he blessed and he made it holy is going to happen. So it's like whether you get on board with it or not, it seems to be the question for us creatures. Because it's not like here he says, Adam, you have to keep it. And if you don't keep it, things are going to go. No, it's something objective that happens. He looks at the time and he blesses it. And I think another reason why this is like countercultural for the time, and this is countercultural for the time, like a nation taking an entire day off, like that's absurd. Like if you didn't work that day, you don't eat. Is typically what happens.
right. There's no refrigerators.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is true. And then think about even grander terms where he tells them you can't even farm your land for a year.
Yeah. Sabbath
It's like,
year.
what does that like tell us? It's like, wow, I have to completely rely on God
Yes.
to meet my needs as I let my land rest, let alone a day, right? A day of not going and gathering your food, that's a big deal. A year, it's like, it's all related back to like, God is my source. God is my provider. He's the one who gives what I need. And I my trust is in him and not in my ability to make things happen, right?
Yeah.
It's a full stop. I am a humble creature. You are the creator. You keep the universe going even when I can like put my feet up on the couch.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And with that, it's just that in this culture, like creation narratives didn't have God's resting. Like when God's created the world, it was like out of war and they like defeated another God and formed their body into the earth. And then their whole reign is like keeping that God submitted and fighting and toil. And so a creation narrative where God sits back, like he creates the whole thing and he sits back and rests is like, this is the sovereign God. Like this is a God who doesn't need to fight or strain or like the God that holds all things. But he models rest, even though he doesn't need it. And that's, you bring up Exodus 31, where it says like, above all, keep this. It's so interesting. Like, I'll just read the last couple words of that, where it describes God doing this. In verse 17, it says, it is a sign forever between me and the people of Israel that in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. It has this weird little thing at the end. He says, and God was refreshed, which again, what does it mean that God was refreshed? Like God is infinite. God he wasn't tired. He didn't need refreshment. So what does that mean? I think in some ways it's modeling how we're meant to see it, that this day is a blessing, is for us to rest and be refreshed. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. Well, I lost my train of thought, so hopefully you can cut this out. Do I have any thoughts on what you just shared?
Like, what does it mean that God's refreshed?
Yeah. Well, I like how you say that Sabbath is going to happen regardless, and it's up to us if we want to enter into that rest.
Good.
And it reminds me of the passage in Hebrews where it's like, will you enter into the rest? And it's kind of like we all have a choice. Sabbath it is a command, but it's also not a command. It's a gift. It's an offer. He's like, would you like this delicious, delightful day of refreshment and recreation?
Yeah.
Things that, and you think about the word of recreation, it's like recreation.
Yeah.
It's like you do things that recreate, refresh, re-energize you. That's what Sabbath is for. It's for delight. It's for community connection to God, connection to others in your life, and then like refreshment, like eating. I think the Hebrew fathers would give their kids a spoon of honey on Sabbath. Like, here you go, enjoy this.
Enjoy the sweetness.
Yeah, and on Free Fridays we would make pancakes, banana pancakes. I would make. I don't usually cook. I'm a terrible cook, but I learned how to make banana pancakes, and every Sabbath or Free Friday we would eat sweet pancakes, and it was like a way for my kids to enjoy the day, and for me to say like, this is a special day. It's a set apart day. It's a day to enter into this rest and refreshment and recreation. So I don't know like why it says God is refreshed, but I do think, like you said, it's probably just to tell us what
teaching
it's
us
for. Yeah.
Just to take a quick tangent too, like Sabbath is like a beautiful, good gift that God gives us. So why do you feel like it's such a struggle for Christians to take it, to see it as such? Because I think it doesn't necessarily translate as that. There's a desire to not rest for some reason.
Yeah, well, I think that is rooted in pride because we think, like I said, we have to keep our universe spinning. And God's like, no, I could literally lay you out. Like, you could be in the hospital for 6 months and the world's still going to go on.
Sure.
Like, you're going to be dead one day and the world's still going to go on.
Yeah.
But we just feel like it's all on us. It's all on me. I got to make this happen.
Yeah.
And
maybe like a lack of trust in the Lord too.
It's a lack of trust. It's feeling like you are in control, that you're making things happen, and that if you stop for one day, that God just doesn't have the capacity to keep things going for you.
Yeah, totally.
So it's actually subversive to stop. Like, because your to-do list never actually ends. There's always something else to do. So you're actually like subverting culture and saying, I'm just choosing to not do the tasks that I know they're there and they're going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say, I can stop today and I'm going to enter into the rest, the gift. I'm going to receive the gift that you're giving me of Sabbath. That's why it says Sabbath was not created. Man was not created for Sabbath, but Sabbath was created for man. It's a gift for us. Like, he wants to just bless you, and you just have to stop.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So that reliance on God for a whole day to say like, God, you're going to feed me, I'm not going to feed myself, or like earn my money for my food. That I think that pops up especially in Exodus 16, which is actually like the first time that Sabbath comes up after Genesis 2. Genesis 2, we have this Sabbath thing, and then there's not much else about it until in Exodus 16, God is leading Israel through the wilderness, and he pours. They're complaining about not having enough food, and so he gives them bread from heaven. And he tells them all how this is going to work. Like, you're going to go out in the mornings, you're going to collect, but you're not going to collect too much. Collect what you need for the day. Right. And if you try to save any, actually, it's going to turn into maggots, and it's going to fester, because that's the way I work, is I want you to trust me that I'm going to feed you. And he says on the 6th day, you'll go out and collect, but you're going to find that you've collected twice as much as you meant to. And that's exactly what happens. Like, the people go out. This is this anomaly with manna where they go out and whoever collects a whole bunch comes back and they find out that all they have is enough for today. And whoever collects just a little comes back and finds out that all they have is enough for today. And it's like, it's strange how it's actually, God changes it, like how much they actually collect. And he says on the 6th day, you'll find that you have enough for 2 days. And it's funny, the people come back and they eat their food for the day and they go to Moses and they're like, hey, we have all this extra. What's this about? And like, so they're in the dark still of why this is going on, which makes me think that maybe they aren't keeping Sabbath up until this point. But then God says, like, this is for tomorrow. So don't go out and collect. This is for tomorrow. And that picture is, don't toil, don't strive. God is caring for you. Like, that's a picture of all of manna. But here it's even special on the seventh day. They're like, you don't even have to go out and collect. Like, I've provided it. Trust that I'm going to provide for you.
What if somebody has a job and it's barely paying the bills?
Yeah.
And they maybe even have to have 2 jobs and they have to work 7 days a week to make the number work for their lifestyle or their budget. Should they just say, I'm going to trust that God is somehow going to multiply one of the days of my week to cover 2 days, even though numerically on paper, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think so. I think that's a picture of our trust in God, and we have a gracious and God who is all powerful and blesses his children. And perhaps God is calling you to like step out in faith in that way. What do you think?
I think so too. I think he might be, or probably is saying, yeah, step out in faith and trust me. I will meet your needs. I will give you your daily bread. And you're missing out on this thing that I'm trying to bless you with, which is a day off. And especially you, dear brother, sister, who's working 2 jobs, like take the gift, that I'm trying to give you. I'm speaking as if the Lord would say those things, but
Yeah.
I think he wants that for us
I think it's good.
because it also paints the picture of the final rest that we are looking forward to. We talked about that Hebrews passage where make every effort to enter that rest, right? And it's like, so this rest thing is like baked into the fabric of the universe and creation, and also is the thing that we're all going to experience one day is the day where the toiling ceases completely forever.
Well, and that's the rest that Hebrews 4 is talking about. It's saying like, enter the eternal rest.
Exactly.
Like hold fast to the gospel, cling to Jesus, make sure you end up there.
And I think the weekly Sabbath is a practice for that.
It is. Yeah. No, I agree.
Where God has done all the work, it's all finished,
Yeah.
and I can just practice. I'm rehearsing for that day when I get to be in perfect communion with God and with others, and I can feast on all the whatever is in heaven that we're feasting on, all the good stuff. And sorry.
No, that's great. So if at least one of the purposes of Sabbath is depend on God, like take your hands off, depend on God, like are there other pictures here? And I think one that most people say is worship. Like this is the day that's set apart for worship. And I think it's actually like the passages about Sabbath in the scripture are pretty sparse in describing worship on that day. And there's a few that talk about like what offerings are meant to be brought on Sabbath. And offerings are happening and priests are sacrificing these offerings to God to celebrate the Sabbath. But it's not entirely like you're not working so that you can worship. Like it seems like maybe the point is like you're not working so that you're not working.
So do the passages kind of touch on just specifically just not mentioning worship, or is it just that they don't necessarily say do this on Sabbath instead of working?
It's not offering like this is what you do in most cases.
So don't just like set aside the time and then fill it with something else. Like set aside the time and
it's about not working.
Yeah, I think it's about worshiping through enjoying God's good gift of like whatever he's given you.
Yeah.
I think that is the worship. That's
good.
I know some people are like, oh, Sunday is now the Sabbath for the
we'll get to that too, I think.
Yeah.
We'll talk about why.
And it's like, so then I have to go to church and that's part of my Sabbath. Okay, maybe that's fine. Maybe that's the way you connect with God, and hopefully people do come to church. Come to church, everybody. But, I think it makes me think that we're viewing worship too narrowly, and we need to say it's worship when we glorify God by enjoying what he's given us. It's worship when we watch a beautiful sunset and thank God and tell him, I love you. Thank you for that. Or, kiss your wife and say, thank you for her. I love her, or husband, or whatever, vice versa. So it's like, that is all an act of worship on Sabbath that is just fueling you. And I don't know.
Yeah. If you're thinking about your Sabbath day, if you see that as Sunday and you're worshiping on Sunday, if you see that as the day where you get to work in your Bible and like you pull yourself up, your spiritual self up by your bootstraps and grow yourself, like that's not what Sabbath is. And Exodus 31:12 and 13 say this. So it says, and the Lord said to Moses, you are to speak to the people of Israel and say, above all, you shall keep my Sabbaths. For this is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I, the Lord, sanctify you. So this is drawing on Genesis 2 where it says God sanctified the day. Kadosh, he set apart the day. He made it holy. Now he's saying you're keeping Sabbath so you remember that I make you holy. So if you're seeing your Sabbath is like, this is the day where I do my spiritual work, you're thinking about it wrong. He's giving it to you so that you remember that God sanctifies you. That like even as you worship, it's God doing the work. It's not you building your dynasty or building your spiritual life or building yourself up. It's God doing it.
That's good.
It all comes back to that humility. Just like chill out and let God bless you. Let God give to you, guide you, lead you, build you up, just like stop striving,
I don't know if that's just like an American thing or something, but I feel like that's like I grew up in a house that was like, Sunday was the rest day, the Sabbath day too. So I don't necessarily feel as much of that pressure, but it is funny because there's such an inclination, especially, just speaking largely of the American church. It's like, oh, we set aside that day. Well, that's got to be my most holy day. I'm going to have like the best Bible study, the best worship, whatever, and get recharged for the rest of the week. And then it's like another day filled with more to-dos. Another to-do list. It's just a different to-do list for that day.
Doing instead of delighting.
Enjoying.
Like that's what we're meant to do on Sabbath is enjoy. Enjoy what God's made, enjoy relationships, enjoy food, enjoy just like chilling out, enjoy a beautiful view, enjoy a good book, do what you enjoy. There's a book that I read. I read a few, and the one that really hit me the most is called The Rest of God by Mark Buchanan. I highly recommend everybody check that book out if you're interested in. It's very beautiful how he wrote it, which kind of matches how Sabbath is supposed to feel. It's supposed to feel like there's something beautiful and sacred here, right? Well, one of the things that I think he says in that book is Sabbath is for want tos, not ought tos. Or in other words, like if you said it more simply, Sabbath is for get tos, not have tos. So it's like, what do you want to do today? Do that. Do that thing that you want to do. If you feel like you ought to do something, don't do it. That means like for my wife, gardening, right? She likes to garden. For me, that would be an ought to. If I had to do that, I wouldn't want to do that. And so it's like, now I ought to, but for her, it's a blessing. So she goes out and gardens on Free Friday, which to me seems like work, but to her feels like play, right? Or if I wanted to go running, someone would say, well, that seems like work. Well, not to me. I like it,
Well, what about for the people that are like, I like my work.
Oh,
I like my 9 to 5. I enjoy that.
I know. I really enjoy a lot of the things I do, and it's hard for me to stop.
I think we still have to stop.
I think we still have to stop too. Yeah. Like practically what that looks like for me is like on Saturdays. So I work at the church, and then I also have this online training thing for worship leaders. And so on Fridays when I'm not at church, now we don't do Free Fridays, we do Saturdays because our kids' school schedule.
Sabbath
Saturdays. Yeah, we don't have a good alliteration for it yet. But I just don't go into my garage where my computer is like all day, and I sit with a big, huge cup of coffee with a lot of cream and sometimes a good spoon or two of sugar just because it's Sabbath and I can do that. So like literally 6 days of the week, I drink black coffee and I like fast till midday-ish. But like not for spiritual reasons. I'm not that holy. But but then on Sabbath, it's different. It's a different day. So I'm going to have a huge cup of coffee with probably like 200 calories worth of creamer and like 2 spoons of sugar. And I sit in the backyard with my wife and we look at the trees. We have these beautiful plumerias with flowers and we watch the birds zip around. And we sit there and we drink coffee and we talk all morning.
Love it.
And it's great. Like, that's the delight. That's the get to as opposed to the have to. You know, like, that's great. But it's hard when you do like what you do. You have to choose to like, I'm not going to go to the garage and go log on to my computer. I want to, but I'm not going to.
Are there some practical workarounds to that? Like if you just get an awesome idea, do you just like journal it or something, come back to it later? You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes you get those pings of inspiration. You're
sometimes, and I don't think God's legalistic about it. Do you? But I do think sometimes I just leave it alone. And I'm like, well, if this is important, he's going to bring it back to me tomorrow.
And
it's kind of another trust opportunity, right?
There's this great story. This rabbi, he loved the Sabbath and takes it seriously. And on one Sabbath day, he's looking in his backyard and he sees a hole in the fence and he's like, I'll have to fix that tomorrow. And then by the end of the day, he's like, that work thought invaded my day. I'm never going to fix that hole in the fence. Like he's like letting Sabbath redeem even his immoral, like what he sees as immoral thoughts. I think that's a cool picture. I don't know. Maybe
funny. I thought you were going to say he just fixed it on the Sabbath or something.
No.
Complete opposite.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
The Sabbath is more important than, but I think I think it's easy for us to hop in and say like, well, this is what God meant, right? Like God said rest. He said don't work. When he's giving me the not to, like I want to supply the for what reason, or like we want to figure it out. And I think he leaves it open-ended and a little bit vague to let us like ponder and figure out like what is he doing with this? And I think one of the like a cool picture that I found, Abraham Heschel in his book The Sabbath, this is like my favorite book on the Sabbath. He describes how like in 6 days we're meant to work, and like when we work, we put our hands to the ground or to the earth and we build something. Like almost everybody's work is in some ways building or like taking over space, taking over the planet, and that sounds terrible. We're not taking over the planet, but like we're building something.
Yeah.
And you can look around at all the work that's been done over the last thousands of years, and we see like man is making earth his own. And the seventh day is a day to not make it our own. Like it's a day unique to God. Like the time itself is blessed. Like 6 days is for space, is for you to put your hands out and you to build and you to exercise dominion over God's world. But the seventh day is the day to remember that we live in God's world. We live in his time. Time is something that like we could never harness. We could never make our own. We could never put our hands to and build something on. The time is God's. Yeah, I think there's so many things that we can point at and say like, what are we doing? Like, what is Sabbath for? And it has to stem from don't work. And I think if we look at the 10 commandments, because you mentioned this is like one of the 10 commandments, and it takes the most time out of all the commandments. There's a couple of commandments that are like 2 words, don't steal. Like that's 2 words in the Hebrew, just don't steal. But the Sabbath takes up a ton of time. And he says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. This is in Exodus 20. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. You or your sons or your daughters, your male servants, your female servants, your livestock, the sojourner within your gates. For in 6 days God made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. But like he lists, you don't work, your kids don't work, your servants don't work, your livestock doesn't work. Like even the animals, this is what the rest is for. The point is so much, don't rest. And I think our brains want to say like, but why? Can't I figure out?
You mean don't work?
Yeah, sorry, don't work. Yeah, these like, why not work? Can't I work and have whatever it is that God wants me to have? And God's saying, no, the point is you don't work. And like, you'll figure it out. Like if you live by this, you'll realize what that Sabbath is for and like the goodness is in it. But don't work.
I think you bring up a good point that there are 6 days to work. And we're supposed to work hard.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I think all of us, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I'm like, man, I wish I could just escape to some island and live on an island and drink coffee every morning and do very little work. But I don't think that's what we're here for. We're here to work. We're here to fulfill a purpose upon the planet and do the thing that God made us to do. And I think we're supposed to work really hard and be busy. I think about the passage in 2 Timothy, or we were just in 1 Timothy, right?
1 Timothy. Yeah.
Sorry, I was reading 2 Timothy with my kids. But 1 Timothy, where it talks about the widows, don't let the widows join the list if they're young because they're going to become busybodies. In other words, let them work, he says. Let them be busy at home and work and do good things. And like sometimes my wife and I are like, man, it would be great to like just like be super lazy. And then we realize like, no, it's actually good to be busy.
Like soul destroying.
It's soul destroying to be lazy. Yeah. It's good to be busy. It's good to work your butt off. Yeah. And then it's good to rest really hard. Yeah. And like just enjoy the day. But it's so they're in polar opposition to each other.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And so I think we also we have to address like, what is the Sabbath day? Is it Saturday? Is that the seventh day? Like, why then do most Christians worship on Sundays and consider that a Sabbath? I know there are Christians that say, no, Saturday is still the Sabbath, but we worship on Sunday. So I keep the Sabbath on Saturday and I worship on Sunday. In our modern world, like affords that more because we have a 5-day work week. So you could get away with that. And then there are other people that are like, well, I work Saturday, Sunday. So can my Sabbath be Friday? How would you answer that?
I don't know, because when you said God set aside a 24-hour period and blessed that 24 hours, now I'm like, which 24 hours?
Yeah, it's tough.
I always assumed it was not a legalistic thing because God knows all of us have varying circumstances in our lives, and
Yeah.
we can't all Sabbath on that specific day. Maybe if we find out which day it is, we could. But I do, or society would have to conform to that, obviously. But I feel like he just wants us to take one day. I don't know if it matters which day. Now I could be wrong about this, but I think he just wants to take one day to say, I trust you completely. You're in control.
I can see why the concern in the Old Testament would be different than where we are now, because like yes, it's a creation, but it is in the law, which is like a deeply nationalistic thing. And the reality that all Israel is celebrating the Sabbath on the same day matters, because if they have to celebrate it on the same day, because there's something in the unity of it, and we're doing it together. And if someone's not keeping the Sabbath, then it's pretty obvious that they're not keeping the Sabbath, and everybody knows. Like, it makes more sense if the entire nation is following God, the entire nation is committed to what God calls them to do, that it would be on the same day. But we live in a different sort of world now where our religion is not nationalistic, and our Christianity is not tied to everybody living around us in this call on our whole nation to live in a certain sort of way. So I think maybe it is less tied to one day together, but it is hard when, like, we look at Genesis and it says 6 days, and then the seventh day, the time on the seventh day he blessed.
But who knows when that actually started?
That's true too. It's like, is that actually Saturday?
What if our Mondays are actually Wednesdays according to God's calendar? I don't know.
That's true.
That's a good point.
That's brutal.
But if that's the case, it's not like we're somehow drastically missing the point of the Sabbath because we're not celebrating the correct 24 hours.
Yeah.
That's why I think God's not legalistic about it in this current, maybe in the Israeli,
Yeah.
Jewish,
At that time, it was important.
Yeah. But I feel like for us, it's just this gift and a test. It's a test. Will you trust me? Will you obey me? Will you do this thing even though your to-do list is piling up? Will you believe that I will carry things for you? It is a test. And that's why I don't think it necessarily matters what day of the week it is, as long as we commit to it. I've been struggling lately to take Sabbaths because now my kids are in 2 different schools, and I've got different stuff on the weekends, and like men's retreat this weekend or men's breakfast last weekend. Come on, church, you're causing me to break my Sabbath. No, I'm just kidding. But it's lately I haven't been doing as great of a job. I still strive and try to take Sabbath, but it's been harder. And so I don't really know what to do in these busy seasons. I don't have a good solution, but I know that if I don't take it, I'm going to break.
Yeah.
I think I wrote down somewhere one time, if you break Sabbath, you will break.
It's true. Yeah.
Because you will.
That's a good way to put it.
You're gonna die. Like you're not limitless. You have a finite amount of energy and bandwidth, and like you're gonna burn out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the idea of it being a set day, it also fights against the idea of us breaking it up even further and being like, well, I can take my Sabbath rest, my 24 hours. If I break that up across 7 days, I could just take 4 hours each day, which is destroying it, right? Like, I don't think we're free to do that. Even if we say Monday, it could be Monday, it could be Tuesday, it could be whatever day. We unchain it from a certain part of the week.
So keeping it as a larger chunk of time, there's some importance to that.
I think so.
Just saying, well, after 5 o'clock every day I get off work. That's my Sabbath.
That doesn't work.
Yeah, because that's basically you're doing it when it's convenient for you. You're not being obedient and taking a subversive action. Like, I know this is uncomfortable for me. I know this is maybe inconvenient, but I'm going to choose to do it this block of time. And we should say, Sabbath for the Jews started Friday night and ended Saturday night.
Yeah.
So like, it wasn't even, I guess technically it was a full day. I guess it was a full day.
Yeah, just not midnight to midnight.
Yeah, it was like the night before they would have a big meal. They would light a little candle, I think, or maybe not a big meal, but they would have some sort of special marcation, and then they would have breakfast together, this and that, delight in the day, and then in the evening they would start cleaning up. And that's kind of our rhythm right now too. Like, we kind of wind down a little bit Friday night, and then bed obviously, and then Saturday we do that coffee outside and sit there all morning, then kind of lay around, do whatever we feel like. This is just for us. That doesn't matter what other people can do what feels good to them. But then in the evening I start getting ready for church in the morning. Like, I got to practice the songs and like send in any notes to the team that need, last minute things. And so around 7 p.m., we're kind of winding down our rest time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe we shift now. Sabbath is such a huge deal in the Gospels. That as Jesus is living on the earth and walking around, Sabbath comes up constantly. And it's mostly because he's doing things on the Sabbath that the Pharisees are saying, you can't do that on the Sabbath. And at times it's because Jesus is stepping on like their laws. So what's going on is the Pharisees so love the law of God and like the law that God has given them that they don't want anyone to even come close to breaking it. So they've put up all these extra rules kind of around. Like if the law is this blessed tree in the middle, they don't want anyone to infringe upon it. So like we're going to set up our own rules. And it's those rules that Jesus is really treading on. That he's saying that's ridiculous. The guy can pick up his bed and walk. And it's fair. It's not fair that they're doing this, but we can see why, because the law is don't work. And so the Pharisees are like, well, what does it mean to work? And that's what we're defining, and that's what we're making laws about. And it's work to pick up your bed. So don't pick up your bed. And that's where Jesus is like, no, pick up your bed. Like you haven't walked your whole life and I made you walk. So now you can pick up your bed and go. But that's where we get, so like, I don't know, it's Matthew 12. Matthew 12 is one of these moments where Jesus says like, Sabbath is made for man, not man for the Sabbath. This is actually a good one for pastors too, because I think I've toiled over this of like, Sunday is my Sabbath. Like I'm going to work. What do I do with that? Yeah. Matthew 12, Jesus and his disciples are walking through a grain field and they're plucking grain, and the Pharisees come out and they're like, what are you doing? You're not allowed to do that. And he brings up that David and his friends like ate the bread of the presence, and it wasn't lawful for them to do that, but they did it anyways, and they were guiltless in it. And then verse 5 says, Jesus is talking to the Pharisees, and he says, have you not read in the law how on the Sabbath the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are guiltless? I tell you, something greater than the temple is here. And if you had known what this means, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would have condemned the guiltless, for the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. So verse 5, he says, didn't you know that like the priests are working in the temple on the Sabbath? They're profaning it. He uses this like really negative term, like the priests, the people who are like the interceders between God and man are profaning the Sabbath, but they're actually guiltless in it. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think that's how, like, I think pastors, that's what we're saying. Like we work on the Sabbath because God calls us to, and we're actually not guilty in it because this is a life-giving sort of work. Like we're interceding, we're caring for the flock. Mm-hmm. Like I wonder if that as a verse is helpful for us.
You work on the Sabbath. My Sabbath is Saturday.
Yeah. I guess that's a good point. I guess we need to define that too. But Jesus' whole point, like he's treading on their laws. In almost every case, he's setting himself up as God. Like John 5, he says like the Lord has worked up until now. The Father has worked up until now, and I am going about his work. He's saying I'm working. It's the Sabbath day and I'm working, but because the Father is working too, and they immediately it enters their heart to kill him because he's equating himself with God. Mm-hmm. Like the Sabbath becomes for Jesus this point where he's declaring his deity. He's declaring, I am God. I am Lord of the Sabbath. I am the one that defines this. And everyone's upset with him and try to kill him because of this. So this is a big deal. Mm. But how far, Alex, can we take Sabbath is made for man, not man for the Sabbath? Does that mean that every one of us gets to define what the Sabbath is? Like if the Sabbath is made for man, does that mean man defines a Sabbath and what a Sabbath rest is? What do you think?
I don't know. Nick, what do you think?
Nick.
I don't know. It does seem like I heard I think it was a podcast too about rest and everything. And I think the way that it worked out with him and his family was like, it was like the second half of the day, Wednesday, and the first half of the day, Thursday. Like that was kind of a Sabbath thing. And it kind of equates to scripture, I guess, like the end of the day, Friday, beginning of Saturday. So I don't, profess to have the answer, but it does seem like what you said before earlier, like setting that time aside and making it, that time available for rest, even when it's not comfortable, like planning for it, that sort of thing. Not just saying, oh, I'll just take a little bit of Sabbath here and a little bit of Sabbath there. Did I equate like looking at your like screen time on your phone or something? Like how much did I look? How much did I rest in Sabbath? Oh, I'm up to like 8 hours in a week. That's good enough. I'll just move on to the next week or something like that. You're probably missing the point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really have an answer. I don't know how much. I mean, obviously God has some parameters.
Yeah.
Like don't work
Yeah.
and delight in me, worship me, but rest looks different for everybody. So I would think that God who made each of us unique would take those things into account as we rest. I don't think God's this angry, like vindictive. I don't think you guys think that either, but he's not like, if you don't take the Sabbath exactly as I say, just like the Pharisees, Yeah,
I don't think God would be like judging you because you like to run on your rest day. You're like, I really like running and I enjoy it. And I, feel like I'm in my body and I'm thankful that God's given me this healthy body that can run. That's good. That's like worship through that. So
I don't like running anymore, by the way, everybody.
It's the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we should say there are parameters. I think that's a big point is we can't just interpret Sabbath was made for man to mean, well, that means I don't want it. I don't need it. Like if it's made for me, I don't have to take it.
Gotcha.
Right. Well, that's where consequences come in.
Yeah.
I do think like I said, if you break Sabbath, you will break. Like you see I don't remember which passage it is, but Israel skipped the Sabbath. They're supposed to let the land rest I think is it every
7 years. Every 7 years.
Every 7 years for sure. But then there's the year of Jubilee, which you
50th year.
you let it rest for like 3 years or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, they skipped all that. They're like, heck no, that's stupid, God. We're gonna keep plowing our land, right? We're gonna keep that makes no logical sense. Why would we not plow our fields? Why would we not harvest our grain? Like that is like literally the dumbest business move ever. We're not doing that. And they skipped it for 490 years. And you know what God did? He sent them out of the land for 70 years.
Sabbath
and it says so that the land could have its Sabbath rests.
Yeah.
So if you say, I don't need Sabbath, guess what? You're going to have a lot of time off. In fact, I told you guys before we started recording, I have a friend. This is not a hearsay story. This is actually a friend that I know who's a Christian man who works in the church in a certain capacity, not our church, but he said he did not take Sabbath seriously or take days off. He said, I don't know how this is possible, but he said for 10 years, he ignored Sabbath.
That's crazy.
And he got
Which is 520 Sabbaths.
Something like that. Thank you. Yeah. That's very smart of you. Oh, that's right. 52 times 10.
Quick math.
Well, anyway, he said he got let go and he could not find a job for like a year and a half or something like that. Let's see how correct he
And that
got.
works. Yeah.
That works. Math works.
Oh, interesting. So a year and a half. And we're jumping ahead of the story with our math, but basically, no, it's okay. Basically, he could not get a job for a year and a half. And when he finally got a job and he calculated all the days off that he had, it was the exact amount of Sabbaths he skipped for his 10 years of working prior.
Wow.
So like God was like, you're going to skip Sabbath.
take it.
I'm going to make you rest. Like you're either going to choose rest. It's like you said, we get to choose to enter into the Sabbath or not. But if we don't, there's ramifications in our life because we're not infinite, and then we're also showing God we don't trust Him. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Israelites had that happen to them. He sent them out for 70 years into exile so that the land could have its Sabbath rest. My friend had to take a Sabbath rest that he didn't choose. So it's like, why not just choose it now and delight in it and enjoy the gift that God's like trying to bless His children with?
Yeah,
and have it be forced upon you.
In that Sabbath year, that's so important because it teaches us that rest it's not just for us, like it's for the world. That every 7 years, Israel isn't to sow their seed, they aren't to plant, they aren't to reap. They're just to let the land rest. And it's not like store up in your storehouses and store up because if you don't, you're going to starve for that whole year. No, God says like it will bring forth the food you need. Like it'll still feed you. It'll feed you. It'll feed all your livestock. I'm teaching you for a whole year. I'm taking care of it. Like rest. Let the land rest. Let your servants and your livestock and everybody rest.
I have a friend. They have an online business also training worship singers.
Yeah.
And she took a sabbatical, a year off, a full year off. And she's like, I'm going to just trust God with my business. Like her husband did work for her, but like she's the face that everybody knows. She's like, I'm just going to trust God that He's going to. And that talk about like a subversive act or a trust-filled act. Like who stops working on their business like and expects it to keep going? She did. And it seems to be going fine. I think they're mostly done with the Sabbath at this point. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. God was like, yeah, thanks for trusting me. I'll take care of you now.
Yeah, I love that perspective too, and I love that you touched on that it's an opportunity to kind of show that we're different, that we're set apart as Christ followers. That it doesn't make sense. You're like, why would you take an extra 24 hours in a week where you can just be like grinding, making more money, do whatever it takes to get to the top, to take that time off and to say, no, I'm not going to work. That's like super countercultural, which can be a maybe proactive way of looking at the Sabbath. It's not a day to just be lazy and to accomplish nothing. You are accomplishing something, but it's not just checking off things on your to-do list.
Yeah. My wife always tells me rest is productive. Because I don't rest very well. And she's like, if you rest, you'll be more productive. Yeah. And the other thing that came to mind when you were talking was Chick-fil-A. They take Sundays off. They shut down. That is so countercultural. It's like, didn't you know if you just open that one day of the week,
money you could
make so much? And they're like, we don't care. And they're doing just fine, right? In fact, they might be making more like this because they're being obedient to God and they're giving their employees a day to rest. They potentially could be making more right now than if they open on the seventh day. We don't know. We wouldn't be able to know that until they did it and tried it. But
and it doesn't seem that that's the point. It's not take a break because you'll be more productive, really. So you'll work more. It's
not a business strategy or something.
Yeah, I think it was Abraham Heschel that he said like live one day as if all the work is done. Like that's what the Sabbath is about, is reminding yourself every single week that the day will come when we will say it is finished and like all the work is complete. We're living in light of that day that at some point we'll put our hands up and say it is finished, it is done. And we get to every single week enjoy that sort of completeness.
So do we want to touch on like why Sunday? Do we want to?
Yeah, we should.
Because I'm just curious. I don't know if I know the answer personally.
Yeah. I read a book on this to try to help.
For funsies.
Yeah. I read 2 books and one of them was really good and one of them was really bad. And part of the problem with it was he was like, here's why we worship on Sunday. And he's like trying to prove it. And it's not convincing, even slightly.
Interesting.
So like we have a few texts and it's just a couple verses. So 1 Corinthians, and that's maybe the problem with this, is like if you're trying to look for a convincing reason why we worship on Sunday, there's no point in the New Testament that they're like, this is why we worship on Sunday. Right. But we have texts like 1 Corinthians 16 verse 2, where Paul is talking to the church. They're taking up an offering for the church in Jerusalem. And he gives them this instruction. He says, on the first day of the week, each of you is to put something aside and store it up as he may prosper. So he says, like, first day of the week, set something aside. Okay, so he's talking about the first day of the week, set something aside. This sounds like us tithing on a Sunday morning. It seems logical that he'd be saying, like, when you come together and you gather, set something aside. Hints at the fact that they're gathering. Then we have Acts 20, verse 7. On the first day of the week, when we were gathered together to break bread, Paul talked with them, intending to depart the next day, and he prolonged his speech until midnight. This is a fun fact that Paul preached till midnight, and
guy fell out of the window.
He had been known to kill people by his preaching for so long as Eutychus.
So be thankful, everybody, that our preachers don't preach.
Exactly. If we go just like 15 minutes long, y'all are okay. We didn't preach till midnight. But it says on the first day of the week, they're gathered together to break bread. It seems like worship service. Like perhaps this is communion. They're gathered together on the first day of the week. This is pretty much our texts that talk about gathering on the first day of the week.
Right.
The other texts, like, I think this guy, he's trying to use the fact that Jesus was raised on Sunday. The disciples were gathered and then they came to find him on the first day. Like they came to the tomb. He's like, well, they were gathered. So like, this is the resurrection day and they're gathered. And then Jesus gives them instruction. And that's kind of tied to the first day, because he gave them the instruction on the day. So that's the day that we're supposed to do those things. And I think that's kind of a sketchy way to read.
So that means people can come to church on a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Saturday night service.
I think they need to come when the church is gathered. That's important.
Yeah.
That it's.
But you're saying like churches that have Saturday night services, like this one used to, are fine.
I think so. And I think there is some reasoning to why they're on the first day. Like, it's because of what happened on the first day. So one of the unique things about the Sabbath is in Exodus 20, we have the 10 commandments, and that's where it's defined. And it says, keep the Sabbath holy, do this because God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. Then in Deuteronomy, we have the 10 commandments repeated, and they're almost word for word. Like there's a couple differences, but one of the biggest differences is the reason why they're supposed to keep the Sabbath. So just a couple books later, in Exodus, it says, because God worked for 6 and rested on the seventh. In Deuteronomy, it says, keep the Sabbath, don't work on it, because you were once slaves in Egypt, and God has taken you out with a mighty hand and has made you his people. So the reason for the Sabbath has changed between Exodus and Deuteronomy. Like, and what's defining it is God's redemptive work in the world. Like what God has done to redeem his people. He says, I created you and I rested on the seventh day, so you rest. But now he's saying, I took you from slavery. I have planted you as my people. Now you rest. So I don't think it's absurd or strange for Christians to say the redemptive act, like the thing which has made us God's people, which has freed us from our slavery, is unbound our chains, is the resurrection of Jesus. That on the eighth day or the first day, Jesus was raised from the dead, and I'm no longer a slave. I've been set free. So I'm called to worship him and set a day aside and rest in his salvation. So I don't think it's crazy for us to say that the redemptive act is on a different day now. Like it was the seventh day. Now it's the eighth day because that's the day that Jesus is raised. I don't think that's a crazy stretch. And so I think it's good that we worship on Sundays. Because it kind of looks like the early church was gathering on the first day of the week rather than on the seventh day of the week.
Yeah.
So I think there's some basis for it.
Super unrelated. When you said 8 days or 7 days, 7 day, first day, 8th day, whatever. As a musician, every note gets a number, and there's 7. I was like,
oh, is it really?
Interesting. There's
7
notes in a scale.
Oh.
There's 7 days of creation. Number of completion.
Yeah,
it's like there's a grand designer that put all this together for us.
Yeah. Abraham Heschel makes that point. He says something like, it's beautiful. It's way better than I'm about to say. But he says like the week of creation is God's song, singing his song, and the weekdays are the consonants, and the Sabbath is the vowel where we, I don't know, hear the beauty of God's grandeur or something.
Yeah.
I'm also really thankful how well you know your Bible, so that you can bring so much good scripture to. No, seriously.
Yeah.
I can't retain biblical.
Yeah, I think I'm good with
text.
numbers.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for you.
So what are maybe some practical ways, because before we wrap up, what are some practical ways that people can kind of practically implement? We've touched on it a little bit.
Well, let me throw a huge wrench in this real quick.
All right, yeah.
So we talked about this with the young adults the other day, and it's like a 3-hour conversation, and we can't even get to. But the first 2 hours were like, look at all these texts. The Sabbath is so important. The Sabbath is so good. And then like with 30 minutes left in our time, we read Colossians 2:16, where Paul, speaking to the church in Colossae, says, therefore, let no one pass judgment on you in questions of food and drink, or with regard to a festival or a new moon or a Sabbath. So he turns to the church and he's like, don't let anyone judge you for not keeping the Sabbath. Which is like, no, like we just talked about like how we need it and how good it is. And now Paul's like, don't let anyone judge you for not. And I'm
Is he saying don't let anybody judge you for not taking it, or just how you take it in context?
That's a good question. He gives a reason why next. In verse 17, he says, these are a shadow of the things to come, but the substance belongs to Christ. So what he's talking about with festivals and calendars is like the Jewish
law.
Yeah, and like the festival of booths and Passover and tabernacles and when he's talking about the foods, he's talking about like kosher laws.
Right.
He's talking to the Judaizers who are saying, if you want to be a Christian, you have to be a Jew, and you have to be circumcised, and you have to, and he has like super harsh words for them in Galatians and other places. So it seems like he's saying, don't let them judge you for not keeping it the way that they keep it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Stop being so religious, people, is what he's saying. Like, stop trying to do all the old Jewish stuff.
Yes.
That's what he's saying.
Yes. I think that's what we're getting at. But it is like jarring after we're like, we need to keep a Sabbath. Don't let anyone judge you.
It's super important.
In questions of the Sabbath. And you're like,
I just want to hear you guys' closing thoughts, like practical wisdom. I mean, I work at this church, but I also work Monday through Friday. So it's a little easier for me to take like Sundays, but you guys have a special case, which is maybe not everybody, but it represents a lot of people who work funky hours or who have shifts that are different every week, like healthcare people or whatever, or first responders, that sort of thing. So like how can we plan for Sabbath well? How can we practically execute it well? And then also kind of to answer my own question too, I think a lot of it does go into just planning for it. Don't just go, well, I guess I have nothing going on Wednesday, so that can be my Sabbath, like actually planning to not have to do work that day and planning to enjoy things and have some kind of framework for it.
It takes preparation. Like, it's not just planning. It takes you have to kind of set out food or intentionally do things on your other days to make sure that you have a day for
go grocery shopping the day before, so you don't need to.
I mean, I think we've touched on what it can look like with just some of the anecdotes from my own life, but I think choosing a day and being consistent with it is important. And trusting God, letting go of the work, pretending the to-do list is not there, and that God just wants you to enjoy His good creation.
Yeah.
I don't think it's very complicated. You just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it'll build into, well, I want to enjoy rest in this way, but I think it should just start with just don't work.
Yeah.
And I think as I really intentionally tried to do this last week, and I spent a whole day I think I made it through without thinking of work until the end of the day. Naomi brought me her phone and she's like, you have a couple emails to read, and she put it in front of my face, and I immediately felt this oh no, what's just happened?
Throw it away.
Work has assaulted my day. I will never read these emails. No,
Alex emailing you. Respond to me, Connor.
Yeah. But I think you'll quickly feel the goodness of it. You'll quickly feel the life that's given in it.
Yeah.
This is a day where God refreshes us.
Yeah.
So start with don't work.
Yeah. And then do what you want, unless it's sin.
That's good. I was like, maybe earlier when you said it's about doing what you want, that we have an asterisk
obviously,
to a point.
If you're a Christian, you should not sin.
Yeah.
But do what you want. That read the books you want, watch the YouTube videos that you've been saving in a tab, whatever. But it should be refuel. It should be edifying and godly, and it should be strengthening your connection with God, and it should be refreshing your soul. So those are the things that you should be putting into your mind and heart. It's what Paul says, whatever's good, lovely, true, noble, admirable, praiseworthy, think upon such things. That's the kind of stuff that you want to be ingesting on Sabbath.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us for this episode. We'd love to answer your questions. So if you have your own question, please email us at ask@rhcc.net. And thanks for joining us.